Monthly board meeting of the Shell Rock River watershed for February 11th, 2025 is called to order. Leah, please call roll.
Manager Bakken?
Here.
Manager DeBoer?
Here.
Manager Kramer?
Here.
Manager Basuski?
Here.
Manager Lee?
Here.
Manager Delger?
Here. Item number 2, public forum. Don't see anyone, nobody signed in, so we will go on to item 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Mr. Chair, at this time, there is no additions, corrections, or deletions to the agenda.
So I get a motion to approve as is then.
So moved.
Manager Pasuski. Do I have a second?
A second.
By Manager Kramer. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call roll.
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager DeBoer?
Aye.
Manager Kramer?
Aye.
Manager Basuski?
Aye.
Manager Lee?
Aye.
Manager Delger?
Aye, motion carried. Item number 4, consent agenda. Following items will be acted upon without discussion in accordance with the staff recommendation and associated documents unless the manager requests opportunity for discussion. A, minutes of the January 14th, 2025 Shell Rock River Watershed District regular board meeting. B, minutes of the January 22nd, 2025 Shell Rock River Watershed District Dredge Committee meeting. C, January 2025 Treasurer's report subject to audit. D, January 2025 project fund treasurer's report subject to audit. E, authorization payment of claims. And F, authorized payment of project fund disbursement. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Manager Kramer, do I have a second?
Second.
By Manager DeBoer. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call roll.
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager DeBoer?
Aye.
Manager Kramer?
Aye.
Manager Basuski?
Aye.
Manager Lee?
Aye.
Manager Delger?
Aye, motion carried. Item number 5, project and program manager Courtney Phillips.
Thank you and good morning. The first item I have is a motion to apply for a Conservation Partners or CPL grant program. CPL is a division of Outdoor Heritage Funds. They kind of deal with or appropriate funds for smaller type projects. What we're looking for applying for funding for is what we're calling phase 2 of the Twin Lakes Stream Restoration Project. If you remember, quite a few years ago, we implemented stream restorations from Highway 69 to Depot Street. At this time, we're looking at going from Depot Street down that Goose Creek to where it becomes a county ditch. There's a lot of erosion that's taking place in that stretch of the stream. There's also a old railroad bed that's kind of impeding flow, and so we're looking at potentially removing that. So looking for CPL funding to implement habitat features and reduce erosion as part of that. CPL does require a 10% match of funds. We are looking at partnering with the city of Twin Lakes because they are redoing the culvert underneath Depot Street as a result of flooding that took place. They are looking to get roughly around $27,000 in federal funding that we would be able to use as match for that. Additional staff time could be used as match too. We're looking around $300,000, but we haven't finalized the budget yet, but we are working on it, and that grant is due February 19th.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Manager Lee, do I have a second?
A second.
By Manager Kramer, any discussion? Will that take care of the beaver dam then?
There is actively a beaver dam there, so yes, we'll be looking at it.
Sounds like a good project.
Yep.
Any other discussion here further? Hearing none, please call roll.
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager DeBoer?
Aye.
Manager Kramer?
Aye.
Manager Basuski?
Aye.
Manager Lee?
Aye.
Manager Delger?
Aye, motion carried.
The last item I have is just some project updates. The Cancun Prairie Restoration Project is largely complete. All of the earth moving has been completed and the roads and culverts have been built up and replaced. Everything seemed to have gone well. I was a little nervous with how things were going to go with the feeding material, but thankfully we had a good mild winter to get that earth moved. I wanted it to be done in winter versus spring because you never know what that the site conditions are going to be like in spring. So we are, if you look on claims, we do have our a significant payment going to the contractor to finalize that. We still do have retainage in place. So depending on how spring goes and the seeding, we will be holding back retainage until we see that native grasses reestablished. Just a reminder that that project was needed to be completed prior to June, so we could close out that grant. So that one has gone well. The next update I have is we got our first subscription magazine to No Till. If you remember, the district had RAPID, which is Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's watershed restoration and protection strategy funding, that we had to send no-till subscriptions to producers in our Shell Rock and Winnebago watersheds. So we had roughly 180 subscriptions go out to producers in our sub-watersheds. So that was exciting. And then the last item I have is a request for proposals for engineering services for the channel. We have been working on drafting a request for proposals for engineering. When we were looking at designing and redoing and restoring the channel from Fountain Lake Dam to Albert Lee Lake, we kind of want engineers to work for us. We're looking at what type of innovative solutions or ideas engineering firms have for that stretch of the channel. And so we're going to be putting out a request for proposals for engineering services so that they can kind of show us their portfolios and what they've done in previous projects and experiences that they have. So we drafted a request for proposals. Steph is currently reviewing it, but we should have it shortly. That will then go to the city for review because the city is going to be a big partner in this project with us. And we're going to throw that out on Quest. So we get kind of a good pool of people, or I should say engineering firms, to help us with that restoration project. Reminder, that's roughly $3.2 million that comes from the SRRWD stamps for that project.
Great.
Those are the updates I have.
I have a couple comments.
Yeah, if you'd like.
I got it. So I get the No-Till magazine also. I was just telling Courtney before the meeting that that we tried No-Till on soybeans. We bought a brand new drill in 2007, and we kept it for 10 years, and then we traded for a planter. But the new drills that what I'm excited about, the new drills have a scale on them now. So you can know exactly how many pounds as you're going across the field, how many pounds you're putting on per acre and everything. In the old days, you didn't have that. They have swath control, which is shuts off at the ends or waterways, where everything's all automatic. In the old days, you had to try to figure out where or go around it or whatever. So you got electric drive now. So when you go around like a tile intake or something, it'll put more seed on the outside and less on the inside. Things like that. The size of the units went to 60 bushels instead of 50, so you can always get that last, you want to have something in when you add to it. So now they figured that one out a little bit, but I think there's going to be a lot of no-till coming back again with that equipment that's available. The planters and stuff now, you can equip them with no-till cultures and different things. So, but I think I'm excited about it to try it again, I guess is what I'm saying. So whether it's strip till is mostly for corn. There's some farmers that do strip till for beans, but that's 30-inch rows. Where no till you can get a 7.5, 10, 15-inch, 20-inch drill or whatever you want. So, thank you.
Can you drill my yard?
Yep.
More grass in there.
I got an extra drill in the shed.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll go to item 6, Administrator Andy Mitchell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item I have is the curly leaf pondweed management discussion. I'm trying to bring this up early here this spring. It's not spring yet, it's still late winter, but as we can see, we hardly had any snow cover here late winter. So I'm pretty sure that curly leaf in Fountain Lake is already starting to grow. So I believe, last year we received probably 20, 30 calls a week on curly leaf management. There's a lot of discussion out there. A lot of it was actually individuals coming in on if they started a business to remove that, what they would have to do. So I believe we're probably going to get more of that again this year. But it's something that we definitely need to start looking at, especially when it comes to management. The district did apply for some grants to use to purchase chemical to treat the curly leaf in some areas. However, we did not, we're not awarded that grant this year. But I think it is definitely important for staff and a board manager or two to sit down and have some discussions with the city of Albert Lee to look at potential management of the curly leaf on Fountain Lake. So with that said, there's many ways that you can remove curly leaf. You can do it mechanically. The one reason I don't like mechanically is you're not taking out the tubers or the seeding pods of the curly leaf. Yeah, you can take out the plant, but it still leaves the seed there, which can actually then come back even better per se. The other ways, there's a liquid chemical that you can use. However, to use that, the best time to use that is when the curly leaf is actually grown to the surface, and you basically surface apply the liquid, and it absorbs into the plant that way. The other one is a granular method, which is like a granular, almost like a, let's just say a fertilizer, like you'd see a granular fertilizer. Which that then sinks down and actually absorbs into the plant that way. I think I've had Mike do a lot of the research on this. So Mike's sort of heading this on our end. I think you found that the granular is probably the most efficient and effective. However, it does take some unique equipment. A lot of times at the point where it's to the surface, it's hard to get a boat through it anyways. We've looked at a company, or Mike has looked at a company that actually uses drones to apply the chemical. So we're trying to get some of those costs for you guys. But I think one of the first steps, again, is discussions with the city in how we want to proceed. The second discussion is going to be working with the, and I hate to say it, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. Because it takes a permit to do this. And to me, it doesn't make sense for individuals to have to get permits. One, it's tough because a majority of the landowner is the city of Albert Lee. So it might be that just the city can get a permit in that area. But I think we want to have discussions with the DNR about is having them give us kind of a blanket permit, and then we would issue permits out based on a set of guidelines that the DNR and the watershed district have worked out. So those are all things that we should have some discussion on. Again, if you remember, the curly leaf does start its growth early. Like I say, it's probably already started. If you call it a nice thing, it does die off pretty early. It usually dies off about July 15th. You start to see it dissipate. However, I will note, if we do treat, we are going to be affecting any of the native vegetation that's there. So, throughout this process, we're going to want to, we're going to want to keep doing vegetative surveys to see where our natives are versus where our curly leaf is. And basically what we want to do is knock down the curly leaf to allow our natives to then sort of take over, so we don't have this problem every year. I will say there are watershed districts that deal with this or have been dealing with this for a long time, especially up in the Detroit Lakes area. They got a pretty robust treatment plan for curly leaf in quite a number of their lakes. So we're trying to get information from them on what they've seen that works. They've actually put us in contact with the University of Minnesota at Mankato, because they've worked with them pretty extensively on the treatment of their curly leaf. So there's a lot more information coming out. There's a lot more techniques. Technology is, like I say, quite a bit better than it was even 10 years ago. They're trying. Excuse me, they're trying different chemicals to see what works, what doesn't work. Also then working again with the DNR on getting different chemicals approved. So Mike, anything you wanna add or anything? So I guess the main point, again, is just to start the discussion, especially with the city of Albert Lee. You know, city of Albert Lee is the #1 property owner around Fountain Lake. Most of the private owners are in the Bancroft Bay area. But other than that, most of it is, I shouldn't say there are other ones, but most of it is city of Albert Lee. So starting to talk with them is important.
I can have a question.
Sure. Thank you. Does the DNR actually do it themselves, any place in the state of Minnesota?
The only place the DNR would do vegetation management are public access areas, where they would go in and clear out vegetation in front of a public access. That's the only place where I have seen where the DNR has done any vegetation management.
What time of year do they go to seed or develop the seed pods or whatever? Is it like most plants?
The big thing with the curly leaf is they can actually sit dormant in, so the turions actually sit in the sediment in the bottom. So that's where their seed pods are actually in the sediment. I think one thing that if you look at our situation, where we're seeing the curly leaf is where we did not dredge. So you can see where we did dredge. I believe we took those seed pods out when we dredged, especially when you look at those areas where we had our 30-foot setback from shore, because that's the transition zone where we're seeing the curly leaf, is that shallower water, anywhere between 3 to 5 feet deep, where it's, and again, the reason we have this problem is because we're cleaning up the water. So that's the good thing. The bad thing is now we got a secondary issue that we're gonna have to deal with, and that's the curly leaf. So again, I don't know the whole life history of when they put those seed pods out, but even if they've already had, if you already have it present, those seed pods are already there. So that's the other thing with treatment. It's not just a 1-year treatment and they're gone. You got to treat them a couple of years in a row to actually get rid of them.
So like where it's been dredged is pretty clay bottom. We anticipate that in a few years that those seed pods, if they move into that clay bottom, do they proliferate in that kind of bottom as well, or are they pretty much only going to be in like a soft sediment?
I can't answer that for you. What I can answer, what I can say is, I think it's, when we think of clay, I don't think that's the kind of bottom. I mean, it's still there's still an organic amount within the clay at the bottom. So I think it's still gonna have the nutrients, it's still gonna have the seed bed there to grow.
Okay.
And then in the areas, of course, where we didn't dredge, we already know that that's good habitat or soil conditions for it to grow. So the main area that I think we need to treat are the areas that we haven't dredged. However, we don't want it to expand. You know, let's say we get even better water clarity, you know, then it's going to keep pushing its way out into those deeper waters. So, you know, again, it's important to manage it early and aggressive rather than letting it go. Now, I will say last year is the worst I've ever seen it. But again, kudos to you guys, because we're seeing cleaner water, the lake's cleaning up. And I put that not 100% on us. You know, I think the agricultural community is doing a great job, but I think a lot of the projects that we're doing are also helping achieve those goals. And I think phase 3 of the dredging is even a bigger piece of this, and we'll clean the lake up even more. So as we move forward, I believe this is going to be an issue that we're going to have to look at and deal with. The one other thing I want to talk about too is, you know, we have really good water clarity, or we're seeing really good water clarity. This is one of those plants though that can actually turn that around, because what happens is you get that big die off in July and it pumps out all that phosphorus as it decays back in the lake, which can cause, again, water quality issues. So again, it's a key piece, you know, to the overall goal of the watershed district of cleaning up Fountain Lake. One thing I will note with working and negotiating right now with DNR for dredging back into Bancroft Bay. That is definitely one area that once we dredge, we want to continually monitor back there and definitely be proactive with curly leaf treatment. We know we do have some curly leaf back there. It has shown up in some of our bench surveys. So again, it's an important issue to tackle as we move forward.
And I'm asking that for a couple of reasons. One being if the way the DNR looks at setbacks, if this can be an argument against having such a wide setback because it encourages that growth zone, so to speak. And as we look at eventually dredging Albert Lee Lake, using that as maybe a method to argue for getting closer to shoreline. And another question I'd have would be, I'm not super enthusiastic about spraying in the lake or using chemical controls if there's mechanical that would do as good of a job without the hazards of any chemical being introduced. But what would the potential be for like the district to get like a mechanical cutter, like you can buy online or whatever, a weed cutter that we help dock owners fill out and get a permit, and then once they get the permit, they can use that to cut the weeds out either themselves or we deliver it or whatever the case would be, depending on liability. That would be more on the legal side.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's definitely something to look into. You know, again, like I mentioned before, you know, it has its good points and it has its bad points. You know, the one thing is you gotta, when you cut it, then you gotta remove it. You know, there is areas we can bring it, whether it be the transfer station, to be recycled into compost. We've got CDF area would be another location to look at it. Again, you're just not effective. You're effective for moving it for that season. You're just not effective in controlling it. That's the biggest issue I see is the actual control of it. So yeah, anything's possible.
So with the granular, will that take care of it once and for all, or we gotta come back every couple of years and we do it again, or?
No, you're gonna wanna probably have it 2 or 3 year. And Mike, you're probably way more up to speed on this than I am, but
Yeah, those turions can live dormant for 3 to 5 years. So it's usually a 2 to 3 year in the spring when the water temperature hits at 50, 55. That's when they would come in and spread the grain there.
And I would say as far as the chemical aspect of it, again, I think that there's plenty of research out there with the different chemicals, you know, that they're not seeing any issues. You know, it's similar to, you know, when we use rotenone to do lake restorations or reclamations. You know, that chemical's been out there for a long time, you know, and we haven't noticed any hazards or they won't let us use it. But yeah, it's definitely something to think about. It's definitely something that we'd want to, you know, advise our constituents about if we were used to use chemical. But yeah, there's different means and methods to go out and do it.
I've talked to a few people that have cabins outside this area and they have the same issue with growth, you know, on their beach area. So they go out there every year and go out there and pull it all up, throw it on the beach, go get rid of it someplace. And some of them have turned into the granular thing. I don't know what they use. I don't know if it's legal or what. And they say that works for a year or two, but they got to keep doing it. But it's less labor and it takes care of it faster with the granular versus pulling it.
Would complete eradication from the lake be a realistic outcome or?
No.
Okay.
But like what you hope to do is you hope to knock it down enough so that the natives take over. You know, we've seen that on Pickerel Lake. You know, we have done chemical management of curly leaf in the past on Pickerel Lake. And we did, I believe it was about a 40 acre area in size where it was nothing but curly leaf. We treated it 1 year, and the next year, maybe 10% of that area was curly leaf, because we gave the natives enough good habitat and environment to grow, and they sort of outgrew the curly. Oh.
So they kind of took over, and kind of choked up the curly.
Correct, yeah.
Comment. The way I'd like to see it happen is if you get a company that we can contract with for the areas that we're responsible for. And then that same company can go to the city of Albert Lea and do some of theirs. And then the private individuals can contract with the same company and do their area as they want. So we don't get involved with liability or all the other things that go with it. Just get the right company that everybody can hire. And it's the easiest to work through the numbers. Don't need the legal department as much, right?
Like, what do you think, Jeff?
Okay, that's my comment.
Yeah, and like I say, that's why I think we need these discussions. We need to keep having these discussions. We got to pull in City of Albert Lea and just keep it, on the radar for everybody. Keep it transparent and just talk through how we want to do it. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, moving on to item B is the Goose Lake Fish Barrier discussion. This one has been a thorn in the district's rear end for quite a while. If you remember way back when we received grant funds to put in the electric fish barrier, we had, well, I'll put this nicely, we had some, what I would say would be some engineering issues with the design of that barrier itself. And the main issue being the spillway or the width of the spillway that we have the electrodes on. We never had enough flow during most of the season to actually push the fish off the electric fish barrier. So they were actually dying right there on the fish barrier, which then would stink up the whole golf course. And we didn't have very happy golf course owners or residents around that area. So we've since been looking at alternative methods to control carp that come through that area. One of the main areas they're using is Goose Lake, or the small wetland up there, to reproduce in, and then they filter back into Fountain Lake in the summertime. So there's two ways right now that we are looking at. We do initially have a design for a mechanical system. Again, the mechanical system is not 100%, just due to, we can't eliminate all size year classes of fish. So smaller ones can usually still get up in there. We are now looking at a second alternative, and I'll probably have Mike speak on this a little bit, but this is some new technology that's come out from the state of Minnesota. I think the University of Minnesota was the first to try this, but it's actually low voltage electrical barriers. So this is more of a deterrent. They're finding it quite effective. And Mike, I'm going to kind of just turn it over to you, just because I know you've done the research on this. So.
Yeah, it's low voltage, 3 rows of hanging electrodes that would be into the water, and it's over 99% effective. It's effective on all sizes. Nothing is small enough to get through it. You can actually use it to steer the fish where you want them to. So Watershed up north of the metro actually used it to steer fish into like a crib or a trap, and then remove them. And they removed 200,000 pounds of carp out of the system in a year. And it's fairly portable almost. It's just on cables hanging, so it's something we could remove and move and reconfigure if you needed to. Yeah, it's technology based out of Poland. University of Minnesota used it, now there's a few other watersheds that have implemented them and it's really good with them.
Sounds interesting.
So I think we got some tentative costs, Mike, tell me if I'm wrong, we're about 110,000, 111,000.
Yeah.
So we're still doing some research on it before we bring it to the board for a full vote. We have since taken the high voltage equipment out of that. It's not gonna go to waste, we can use those pulsators as backups to any of the other electric fish barriers we have. So stay tuned, we'll bring more information back to you guys. The one thing I do wanna just reiterate is we are seeing in some of our water monitoring reports, now we haven't done any of those recently, but in the past, Goose Lake per the acre feet of Goose Lake was one of the highest contributors in the spring for phosphorus to Fountain Lake. And that's because you had all those carp in there, basically stirring it up and spawning. So again, looking to resolve that situation and of course get better water quality and clarity. Any other questions on that?
Question on that 100-some thousand, does that include a standby generator? And then those,
This was just their equipment cost and install, there was nothing with the generator.
And we would already have a standby generator, because we already have a generator out
it's there all there?
there. Correct. We haven't removed that yet.
I know we looked at Bridge Avenue at one time for a barrier or something, but would a mechanical ever work there at that spot on Bridge Avenue? Right, comes right underneath the bridge right there, doesn't it?
Oh,
Or rocks or something that,
yeah, they just replaced those collards here when they did the restoration. I don't know, I'd have to look at it, but it could be another spot. The reason we just picked Goose Lake is because we have such a good working relationship with the golf course. We already have the structure there. So it's really easy to sort of reconfigure that structure just to hold those electrodes in place. Plus the generators there, all the electrical down to the structure is there. So it would be a pretty easy fix.
it's on Bridge, it's easy access to it. So in the old days, we looked at mechanical barriers first for cars because they didn't have all the maintenance costs. Just need somebody who wants to clean them out every week or whatever. So. Thank you.
All right, so no other discussion, let's talk the item C, Fountain Lake Restoration, East Main Bay and Bancroft Bay update. I will say that the dredge committee has been putting in their work. We've had quite a few meetings here in the last 2 weeks. We have another meeting actually today at 2 o'clock. The biggest angst for the DNR, of course, is Bancroft Bay. You'll see a map in front of you. If you look at what we are asking to dredge, is everything outlined with the black hashed mark. So you can see we have a 30-foot setback from the south shore in Bancroft Bay. You'll see up there to the north part of Bancroft Bay, those, I call them tan to brown. Again, that is the sediment information that the district has created over a number of years, looking at the phosphorus fractionations within the sediment. These are actually done with sediment boards that the district paid for. So it shows the highest concentration of phosphorus within the sediment that we want to remove in those areas. That has been our #1 focus with the DNRs. We need to remove that phosphorus out of Bancroft Bay. You will see that within those areas, we have some green shade. We have conceded, is probably the right term, just to be transparent, that we conceded that we will stay out of those areas and only dredge in those areas from June 1st to September 15th. Again, DNR's biggest reasoning is a Blandings turtle, so we're calling these the Blandings turtle avoidance areas. So we're still asking to dredge them. However, we will dredge them within a time frame June 1st to September 15th. The next thing I want you to note on that, you can see this in the middle of the bay, there's this green line right here. You can see the original black line, hash line, goes a little bit closer to the city park. If you see all the gray splotches, I call them, that is the DNR shapefile they gave us to where there is white pond or yellow pond lily. And that was some of the areas they wanted us to avoid. So we actually discussed moving that dredge contour or the dredge line further to the west. And this is the map that we gave him our last meeting, which was Friday. So again, looking at this, we do meet again today to discuss it. DNR wanted time to go back and look at it. I do know that DNR has reached out to our engineers and actually wants to push this green line that we drew in and around the island that you see down to, I call it the southwest. So they wanted to push all the way around that. However, if we go back and look at some of the late aerial photos and even some of the more recent aerial photos, we are not in favor of that. The reason why is if you look at the main hydrodynamic flow of Bancroft Bay, it actually goes, the flow tends to follow the east side of that island. So I think today, again, we're going to show them our evidence of why we don't want to push that any further to the west, that line, excuse me. So that right now is where we stand. We only have those two issues. You know, we have conceded to what we call an adaptive vegetative management plan. And basically what that entails is if we don't see vegetation growing within, I think we're going to put 3 to 5 years, that we'll go out there and try to get native vegetation to grow. I personally don't believe we'll need to do that because we got plenty of seed bank in there. We have, if we get really good water quality, water clarity, that the seed will grow naturally. So that's not a huge concern, but we did put that in the permit that we would have an adaptive management plan if we see lack of native vegetation growing in there. Also in that adaptive management plan is a focus on invasive species, so curly leaf. That is one thing, if we do see that right away in Bancroft Bay, we will want to go in there and treat that. That is one thing that we are willing to put in the adaptive management plan. And I think that's, again, a good thing to do for us. So again, I think, you know, we're down to 2 issues, and hopefully after today, we're down to 0. It's still the DNR, they say it is, you know, they're trying to get the permit out to us by February 28th. So again, we'll see after today how willing they are to work with us. I think we have shrunk our area down as much as we are willing to, again, to make this a successful project. So with that, if anyone on the dredge committee wants to say anything, or.
Well, it's been interesting working with the DNR back and forth on comments and where they want us to be and where we want to be. But I think we're getting somewhere. Today will be a big deal to see how far it has.
I like what their willingness to meet on a regular basis to try to get this resolved by the 28th. You know what I mean? Who's our guy in Oregon? What's his name?
Jason.
Jason. He's been just phenomenal to work with and how he's pulling us together. I keep liking this terminology that we're not that far apart. You know what I mean? And so I think each time we get together, we're seeing this. And I think as a watershed, we just gotta stay true to where we're at. You know what I mean? Our goal was to get clean water in Fountain Lake. And this is Fountain Lake. You know, if you look on the DNR website, this is Fountain Lake. You know what I mean? And so we gotta keep looking at it as a whole, and if we don't get this cleaned up, project's not gonna be successful. And so I give you credit, Andy, for holding your ground, and not getting too mad during the meetings. I think that's what we gotta keep doing, just for a successful project. So.
Well, a couple words, I don't want to repeat everything, but we've adjusted on the area of the dredging with the DNR. We've looked at the timeline with the DNR. We looked at having a monitor for the Lavins turtle out there when we need it. Excuse me. And there is a pond on there. Show them where the pond is. That I didn't know. I kind of forgot about it. We talked about it the other day. That it's close to the area out there.
Yeah, so if you, again, another project that this board approved was the, we called it at that time the Stables Area Flood Mitigation Pond. Again, we worked with the city of Overly on this. We received flood mitigation dollars to build the large pond that is just south of the driveway to the transfer station. We actually designed that pond habitat-wise for the Blandings turtle. We have reduced slopes, side slopes, to help them navigate their way up and over. We use more of a sandier loam material for them to lay their eggs. So we actually put design criteria in there for Blandings turtle, which now they say is coming back to hurt us. So, you know, we have always looked at the habitat value to our projects, not just the water quality advantages of our projects. Another similar project is the Wedge Creek stream restoration. For those that weren't on the board at that time when we did those projects, we actually incorporated turtle hybernacliums. I hope I'm saying that word right. But put in little burrows with big limestone rock for them to overwinter in. You know, so we do look at these things when we design it. And really what's tough is to get the DNR to understand how much effort and how much money we put in. There's a reason we designed it like this. It's not because we're just going out there and making some nice little contours and say, this is what we want to design. You know, it is our goal to get all of that phosphorus out of that area. It is our goal, you know, to create that or keep that hydrodynamic flow through Bancroft Bay. So there is a means and a method to our madness. So trying to get the DNR to understand that and hopefully permit this project is again what we continue to keep doing on a daily basis.
Thank you.
All right, so then the last one, the confined disposal facility cleanout update. Again, the cleanout is complete. You will see that we do have a large claims again for the finishing up of the project. However, we do have about 111,000 in retainage that we are keeping that way, and again, until we see the grass growing and all of the erosion control being maintained throughout the rest of the winter, spring, and into the summer. They do have all the erosion control in place as of now, but again, that can change with one storm event. So they need to maintain it and check on it on a weekly basis. So we'll keep them doing that. We might have a potential change order coming. There shouldn't be a cost for the change order. It's just giving them extra time. You know, because again, we don't know what the spring holds for us as far as weather, and we don't want to cut off the contract if we don't have vegetation and stuff growing and they can't get out there to manage it with the equipment needed. So you might see an extension in final completion, or waiting for final completion. Pushing that end date out a little far as the management of the spoils area. Again, however, everything's done and ready to go for a dredge company to go in there and start filling. Yes, sir?
On the material that we have on our property, do you have any idea how many cubic yards there might be?
I don't as of right now. We are supposed to be getting a final survey of the whole area. So once we get that, we'll be able to tell how many cubic yards.
Well, I'd like a plan is what I'm saying here on what we're gonna do with it earlier in the process instead of letting the trees and the weeds grow on it and stuff. So if it's gonna be exported out or whatever, or leveled off and seeded or whatever it is, but
Yep.
let's have a plan.
Hear you loud and clear. Any other questions, or with that, Mr. Chair,
You're done.
I'm done.
Okay, very good. Item number 7, are there any manager items?
Here, I have a few items I wanted to mention. Minnesota watersheds, we're changing the legislative and resolutions process. So we're going through that process right now. So if you've been to the annual conference in December, you know that usually on Friday or the last day of the conference, we have a business meeting the resolutions meeting where our 2 delegates will vote for all the resolutions. We're changing that process, or in the process of changing that process based on membership around the state preferences and stuff like that. So what we're doing is putting it to, in April, there would be a call for resolutions. They'd be due June 1st. So that way, if we have any resolutions we want to submit, we would submit it at that time. By June 1st, they'd go out for like a 10-day comment period to all the watersheds around the state. So we'd have time to look at what resolutions are coming out and whatnot. And then the resolutions and legislative committees, which are right now 2 separate committees, would be joined into one committee. So rather than having to go through all the resolutions twice for 2 groups, it'd just be one committee. All right, so then that committee would meet virtually in, I believe it's June, later June, to go through those resolutions and make their recommendations. And then in August, we would have another hybrid meeting that would go through all the resolutions or and then set our legislative priorities. Because the way it used to be is the lobbyist, Ray Bone, it used to be our lobbyist, would kind of make more decisions on the fly of what was watershed priorities and stuff when they were working on legislation. The new company we're working with, they want just 2 or 3 things to focus on. They can still have a list of if a bill gets introduced, or another group is backing another bill, they can make some decisions on the fly. But what they want in that August is we're going to set our legislative priorities. And then at the annual conference, rather than having that 1 or 2 hour meeting when everybody's waiting to get on the road and head home, that would pretty much be eliminated, and we would just review the legislative priorities already set. And unless something emergency came up, after the election, we knew if it's Democrats, Republicans that had the legislators, we might want to change priorities, or something may have come up. So we might want to, we would vote on with a super majority to change the legislative priorities. So what we need to do is Minnesota watersheds, in order to change it so we can have a hybrid meeting in August, we have to have a special meeting in March. So we're going to want to select 2 delegates to attend that March 21st meeting, which will be in St. Cloud. And really all we're doing in that meeting is voting yes or no to allow hybrid meetings into the bylaws and manual of policies and procedures, or MOP. So we would be going up there for that one simple vote, but that would make a big difference in how Minnesota watersheds can manage this process. So what I'd be looking for is approval for 2 managers to attend the special meeting March 21st, and to appoint 2 delegates, which I'm assuming I would be one of them since I'll be up there anyway. So any questions on that process, why we're doing it?
Yeah, so before we just do it at the annual meeting, and you're rushed because session starts, roughly 35 days, 40 days later. This actually gives more time for us to get those processes in, get the language in, have Minnesota Watersheds vote on that language, and then move it forward. So for this year, they got their top two priorities is one, the permitting, that permitting issue that we brought to them, and the other one is chloride or salt. So those are the two big issues this year, but again, we want to sort of change the framework to give us more time and to basically create support for what our priorities are going to be into the next legislative session. So again, for the board managers, we need 2 delegates. Brad said he's because he's already going up there for Minnesota Watersheds. So if we can get 1 more delegate for the March 21st, we will actually approve that at our next board meeting on March 11th. So please let Mick and Brad know if you want to be one of the other delegates to go up there March 31st. And then also just on top of that, a reminder that we do have legislative session coming up next week. I don't remember if any of you signed up for that. I know Brad is, but that is also next week.
Thank you. And a couple other things I attended the Minnesota Lakes Management Symposium that focused on phosphorus last week here. So I learned a lot there, good learning session. And 2 other things I would like to ask the board to consider, not bringing up for a vote here today, but maybe for next month to put on the agenda and vote for. One would be with all the projects we do, putting developing public land for recreational use and stuff like that. The lakes improving, a lot more outdoor activities coming about because of our work, would be to lead a project that would be fairly simple, but creating like a mailer or a flyer that would have a number of different like QR codes. And I use QR codes a lot for my business. That a QR code can be tied to a map, it can be tied to a PDF, a website, a contact form, anything like that. But putting together basically a sheet that has all the different outdoor activity groups, which might include fishing, upland game hunting and deer hunting, waterfowl hunting, foraging, kayaking and canoeing, motorboating, fishing. So each one of those QR codes, so let's say it was you're looking for the upland hunting, you scan that QR code, map comes up and shows all the areas in Freeborn County that would that hunting would be legal, public lands and stuff like that. So that would give residents, like a resource to say, okay, if I want to go pheasant hunting or I want to go duck hunting, where in the county do we have that public use?
So like where the public accesses are and stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly, yeah. Really, with all I see us becoming kind of recreational hub in our region, especially once we get to the point of Fountain Lake being done and Albert Lee starting to get into the dredging process. I mean, I see us having a lot of potential for economic and quality of life because of that here. Now the second request I'd have is organizing like a semi-annual meeting with other groups involved in conservation. So SWCD, Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, the city, the county, bringing us all at a table together to talk about our various projects, where we're getting funding, see where we can actually help each other out rather than, we try to attend, somebody from our board attends county and city meetings and someone from the city here, and we have some interaction between different boards, but specifically having 1 to 2 meetings per year where we sit down and actually talk about our projects and everybody collaborate more. So I guess two things that I'd like to see our watershed kind of head up.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
One comment. I would like to thank Leo for putting up the fish pictures, I think they're gonna be on the Watershed Weekly next week, but there's a northern picture too, northern pike that's been coming out of the lake and then a walleye, so it's advertising for us. I think we're doing a good job. So thank you.
Okay, any other manager items? No,
I had doctor appointments on Tuesday morning, but I did get up there towards the end of the county board meeting, and I think they still have a new county administrator, because one they're gonna hire back out. So I don't know whether that's, I guess we'll probably hear more about that when you get there at 10:30. Just, that's about what's going on there, I guess.
anyone else? Upcoming meetings. Board meeting, the next one is March 11th. Else? Hearing none, need a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Manager Kramer. Please call roll.
Manager Bucket,
Aye.
Manager DeBoer,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Pasuski,
All right.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Belcher.
Aye, we are adjourned.